Hello, everyone. In this video, we're going to talk all about the effects of price discrimination. So starting off, we want to talk about one price versus price discrimination. With perfect price discrimination, every firm is selling the same good or service at a unique price to every particular consumer. And ideally, the firm would charge a price equal to the consumer's maximum willingness to pay. A good example of this is car dealerships and jewelry stores. So by selling the good to customers at the consumer's WTP or willingness to pay, the firm is trying to extract all the consumer surplus. With our car dealerships and jewelry stores, the seller posts a high sticker price and then bargains with the consumer over a discount off that sticker or final price. By bargaining, the seller is able to get a better idea of exactly how much you're willing to pay. Now, with car dealers, if you look at discounts off list, typically men will get higher on average in discounts than women do. And people that are white or appear to be white will typically get higher discounts than people that are of other orientations or other dispositions do. Now, this holds after controlling for the race and gender of the salesperson. So regardless of if it's a male or a female salesperson, this is a trend that does typically tend to happen. And the question that we're asking here is this price discrimination given on what we have discussed, or is it something else? And in a lot of cases, this isn't necessarily price discrimination. This is going to be what we see as discrimination based on some outlying factor. Now, with economics and with putting things into mathematical models, we are looking at examples where the price discrimination is not due to race or orientation or, male, female, anything like that. We only want to look at it from an economic standpoint. And in that case, price discrimination is just solely based on that particular consumer's WTP or willingness to pay, rather than being based on some of the more nefarious things that we see in, unfortunately, a lot of cases. So graphically looking at one price versus price discrimination, we're supposing in this case that there are two monopoly airlines. We have Flat Earth Air, who charges only one price, and Discriminating Flyers, who will charge its passenger two different prices. So Flat Earth Air is going to be graph A over on the left, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to have the profit maximizing output and price. Now with this first click here that we look at, we have our MR, or marginal revenue curve. And then we end up with kind of that max option of $20,000. So that's going to be our max profit, which is going to be Q of 100 and P of 300, meaning we have essentially a quantity of 100 people flying, and those people are all paying $300 a piece. Now with Discriminating Flyers, they have their price discrimination, which means they're charging different people different prices. And this allows us to gather some additional profit in some cases by charging an additional 400, but then we have some profit that we lose by not just charging everybody that flat fee. Now, the profit that we lose by not charging the full 300 to everyone is this $5,000, but we're able to gain $5,000 in profit by offering discount tickets at a price of only 200 and that additional profit of those more expensive tickets. So even though we're losing out on some profit in the middle, overall, we're ending up with a total profit that's $5,000 higher than Flat Earth Air. And that's because they are operating on that discriminatory price basis. And this is why for a lot of airlines, it does make sense. Now, the way they get away with this is they go ahead and they change the price based on duration and time until the flight. And then they have different travelers that are booking those flights based on their willingness to pay and various circumstances. Now, something else to consider are the welfare effects of price discrimination. For producers, they're going to have a higher PS, which means that firms are making a higher profit, and PS is going to be that producer surplus. For consumers, there's a benefit of more units being offered for sale, and more trading is going to occur because there is a lot more negotiation. In certain cases, they're going to have a higher overall consumer surplus. Now, overall, welfare will increase and deadweight loss will decrease. So overall, even though price discrimination sounds a little bit scary from the get-go, it does end up providing both producer and consumer surplus. If we were to have perfect price discrimination, well, we're starting off here with a one price solution. With the first click, area B appears, and this is going to represent the profit earned by a single price monopolist. The second click that shows us area A represents the additional profit that's earned by charging prices higher than that typical 300. And because of this, the firm is charging other consumers at a higher WTP because these consumers are willing to pay more. Now, area C represents the additional profit earned by charging lower than 300. This is those discounted tickets for those standby passengers and others that are outside of that regular $300 mark. And this is going to be those people that weren't willing to pay $300, but they are willing to pay that lower price. This is where we gain some of that extra profit. Now, a good way to kind of break this down and make it a little bit easier for you to understand the different market structures is to look at this graph and then look at what pops up here. So in perfect competition, consumer surplus is A plus B plus C. The producer surplus is nothing in that case, and there's no deadweight loss. Total welfare is just equal to those three things added together. In a single monopoly, the consumer surplus is A, producer surplus is B, and deadweight loss is going to be C. Total welfare is only A and B added together. And with perfect price discrimination, it's going to look exactly like perfect competition. So these are kind of a good little cheat sheet figure for you as you prepare for that exam. Now let's look at a few practice questions before we end this video. Which of the following goods or services is most likely to be sold successfully by a firm at different prices? So let's take a look at this for a minute. And the correct answer here is haircuts. Now, books, candy bars, and university apparel can all be easily resold. A haircut is a service that cannot be resold, so it's most likely to be sold successfully at different prices. Another practice what you know question, in this case, Dirk buys chicken nuggets and Lee buys chicken parmesan. The two men pay two different prices for these goods. And this is an example of which of the following. The correct answer here is none of the above. So while the goods are different in price, there are cost differences in their production. And because of that, that is not considered price discrimination. It's not inelastic demand because it's not people that are, more or less concerned about price, and there's no changes in demand happening. So this is going to be none of the above. In this case, a general rule for price discriminating with two customers or consumer groups is to charge a blank price to the inelastic group and a blank price to the elastic group. So remember, inelastic means that they don't care as much about price, and elastic means they are more sensitive to price. So the correct answer would be you want to charge a high price to that inelastic group that don't care as much about price, and you want to charge a low price to the elastic group that do care more about that price. Another practice what you know, what market and pricing structure has the least amount of consumer surplus? And the correct answer here is a monopolist that engages in perfect price discrimination would have the least amount of consumer surplus. That's when the customer is getting a benefit. And then finally, before we end this video, we want to do one last practice what you know. So why might one consumer in group A have a more elastic demand or be more price sensitive than another group B of consumers? So we have group A may have less income, group A may have lower tastes and preferences. And the correct answer is that both of the above could be true. So there's a number of factors that can affect an individual's WTP or willingness to pay. It's just that if it's more elastic, they are more price sensitive. So that's where we're going to go ahead and end this video. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, I'll talk with you in the next one. Thank you.